Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show, Waldorf Nation. All right, everybody. It's Monday. Late start. Let's dive into it. We've got Joe Rogan, of course. We're going to talk about him. We have Republicans very surprised that Republican politicians are voting against their own best interests. That's fascinating. We have an interesting panel discussion on Democrats. They get so close. Very interesting. A lot of different stories. So why don't we just, again, dive into it. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. And let's start out with Joe Rogan. Interesting. Podcaster Joe Rogan is getting real tired of people thinking that he's a conservative.
Like, that's the kind of shit that keeps me from being a Republican. Yeah. It's only one of the kind. There's a bunch of shit that keeps me from being a Republican. Yeah. But that's one of the, like, people will say, like, oh, you know, you're a secret conservative. I'm like, you could suck my dick. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm so far away from being a Republican. Yeah. Just because I believe in the Second Amendment and just because I support the military, just because I support police. Yeah. Like, I was on welfare as a kid. I think it's important. I think having a social safety net is crucial. Yes. It's crucial. Yeah. We should help each other. We're supposed to be one big community. I'm a bleeding heart liberal when it comes to a lot of shit. There it is. I just also believe in discipline and hard work. Yes. That's where I fall into the more conservative side. And but that's okay. But I'm not a person who wants to, like, keep all my money and not pay taxes. Like, people have accused me of moving to Texas because I didn't want to pay taxes. No, I moved to Texas because I want fucking freedom.
I'm not a Republican. In fact, I am so far away from being a Republican. How dare you call me a conservative? I moved to Texas for freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from what? You answer that question. He doesn't really get into it, does he? But okay, look. So before I dive into more of this, let me just point out something that I don't think a lot of people understand. Maybe you do. I'm sure a lot of you do. The fact that, look, Republicans aren't conservative. Conservatives aren't Republicans. You can see that from a lot of economic positions that are taken by Republican voters versus what the party supports. I mean, the party is actually very pro-corporate and primarily exists to help rich people like Joe Rogan, who did say, "Oh, what are you talking about? It's not like I don't want to, pay my taxes or anything like that. But let me move to a very low tax state, as in no taxes." Okay. But look, polls do show the majority of Republicans support progressive policy positions. For example, raising the minimum wage. Now, look, unfortunately, on that issue, Republicans are still like, let's raise it to like $11 an hour. Let's give them a little bit of a raise, but not too much. We're very, very concerned about corporations, or what they consider to be mom and pop shops. That's the main concern that they have against raising the minimum wage. All right. Now, on other things, like, for example, healthcare, 56% of Republicans, it's a majority, they support the Joe Biden healthcare plan. You know what that is? The public option. Oh, weird. A majority of Republicans, 56%, support what Joe Biden would do to healthcare, or at least what he ran on, not what he's actually, doing, which is nothing. Okay. How about on Medicaid? By the way, all Republicans voted against, or would theoretically vote against, a public option. And by the way, also voted against the ACA, which wasn't even a public option at all. It was their own plan. Now, speaking of, again, the ACA, the Republicans also voted against being able to expand Medicaid in a lot of different states. Now, not all Republican governors were against opening up the state to doing Medicaid, to expanding Medicaid to the poorest Americans. But Republicans have in Congress tried to get rid of the ACA, undo it, which is the thing that facilitated the ability for states to expand Medicaid. On prescription drugs, 70% of Republican voters say the government must do more to reduce the cost of prescription drugs. That's Republicans. Now, guess how Republican congressmen voted against any bill, Build Back Better, that would have actually lowered the cost of prescription drugs? All of them, all Republicans. Half of them, by the way, half of Republican voters, and I found this interesting, would actually support a bill that would allow Medicare to negotiate prescription drugs with the pharmaceutical companies. Half of Republicans would say, yeah, I would support it even if every single one of my Republican congressmen, every single Republican voted against it. I would still be okay with it if it passed on a party line vote. You know why? Because it actually helps me. That's fascinating. Now, on the local level, Floridians did actually, and I just cited how nationally a lot of Republicans are like, I'm not in favor of the $15 minimum wage. But wait, voters in Florida voted to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. South Dakotans voted to legalize medical and recreational cannabis. Missourians voted to expand Medicaid to adults who earn under $18,000 a year. Arizonans voted to tax the rich, to fund public schools. So those are red states that are doing progressive things. Progressive economic policy. And guess what? That is because it's what the voters want. Now, of course, when you look at the parties on social things, now that's where there's a lot of differences here. Same-sex marriage, abortion rights. In fact, Joe Rogan is going to go into that.
It's not just abortion rights, but now they're going after gay marriage too, which is so strange to me. Because gay marriage is not silly. It's marriage. It's marriage from people that are homosexual, and it's for them. It's important. They want it. They want it. They want to affirm their love and their relationship. And the fact that they're going after that now almost makes me feel like they want us to fight. They want to divide us in the best way they can, and that this is the best way for them to keep pulling off all the bullshit they're doing behind the scenes, is to get us to fight over things like gay marriage, or get us to fight over things like abortion. Or it's just like, why are you removing freedom?
If you're going to say that marriage is an important cultural institution to the fabric of America, you can't remove it from Americans.
Right.
You can't go and say, this is important. This is what we do. We create a family and we love one another. And this is how we express our love. And then say, these Americans can't do that shit.
It's so homophobic because you're saying there's something wrong with being homosexual. By saying that you are opposed to gay marriage, you're saying you're opposed to gay people.
Ding, ding, ding. Here we have a broken clock moment. The guy just realized Republicans hate gay people. And that Republicans also hate freedom. You know, when it comes to abortion. Hey, guess what, guys? Republicans have literally always been against abortion and marriage equality. In fact, you know, the plan to get the conservatives in the Supreme Court to overturn Roe, that was 50 years in the making. Decades. If you knew anything at all about Republicans, you would know that. But here's the problem with rich people like Joe Rogan. The money blinds you. And that's what it is. All they look at is, hey, look, Republicans, they don't really want to raise my taxes. I mean, look, it's not like I don't want to pay my taxes or anything like that. But you wouldn't mind a tax cut, would you? Of course you wouldn't. And at the end of the day, it's all about me. Oh, hey, Republicans don't care if I spread a disease around because I don't want to wear a mask. That's real freedom. Oh, Republicans will, make it so that I don't have to get a vaccine. Life-saving. They can save the lives of people around me. You know what? Freedom. Okay, what about the people who can't afford to get sick? In this country, remember, we don't have a universal healthcare system. We don't have socialized healthcare, okay? We brutalize our own people by forcing them to pay for healthcare. No other country does this. Out of pocket, by the way. Other countries actually pay for healthcare by making sure that everybody pays into a pool using their tax money, and then they get benefits whenever they need it. They can go into a doctor, they can see a doctor whenever they need to without paying money out of pocket. But in this country, we don't do that. Not only do we allow people to go into massive debt or die when they get sick, but we also allow people like Joe Rogan to flout mandates like masks and go around and spread disease unchecked to the people that can't afford to get sick. Or in the gun issue, allowing people with serious mental health issues to easily get their hands on guns, but not allow them to easily get mental health care if they need it. So that's the problem. But okay, people like Rogan understand who they are. They are selfish and deeply uninformed. Now he says, what are you talking about? I'm not a selfish person. But you really, when you look into it, a lot of your so-called stances on freedom mean you actually don't care if what you're doing affects other people. And so as for being super uninformed, not knowing what Republicans actually stand for. Because when they say something about their alleged positions, understand the vast majority of the time, they're lying. They're lying about being in favor of freedom. They want freedom for corporations and rich people, not for you. Now, how else, by the way, if you haven't drank the Republican Kool-Aid and listened and absorbed their talking points, believe their talking points, can you be upset about banning gay marriage and abortion while also saying that you support somebody like Ron DeSantis for president, which Joe Rogan has? DeSantis thinks gay people are groomers, supports a bill to ban abortion in his state. Texas also has one of the most restrictive abortion bans in the country. He's like, I moved to Texas for freedom. Really? Freedom? Maybe freedom for rich people like Joe Rogan, but not for women. Not for anyone with a uterus, which involves trans men as well, non-binary folks. But of course, Joe Rogan, a little transphobic. Finally, look, I could forgive people working 12 hours a day for not keeping up with the news. But Joe Rogan's a podcaster. He talks for a living. Meaning that theoretically he should, if he's going to wade into political issues, he should at least know what the fuck he's talking about before he opens his mouth. All right. We have a theme today going on. Republican voters are surprised they're actually getting the policies that they voted for. On Reddit, for example, a user asked about the recent bill to codify contraception, in which passed the House, where 195 Republicans, the vast majority of the Republican caucus, for some reason voted against. So now here's that question. Okay, my ignorance is showing. I'm looking at HR 8373 and having a difficult time reading it because all I hear in my head is Nancy Pelosi's shrill voice, as if she were reading the dang thing. Why would anyone vote against the bill? I've been a conservative my entire life, and even I would support something that ensures that a contraceptive was available to anyone who wanted actual family planning services. Are people concerned that abortions would be considered contraceptives? Is it a gateway drug kind of situation? I've got to be missing something here. Insight and thoughts. Insight and thoughts. All right, so before I get into more of this, because it's so illustrative of how much Republicans don't even understand what their party even stands for. It's been basically reactionary, owning the libs. And so it's like, wait a minute, I'm trying to understand, why would you vote against this contraception bill, even though I have that, internalized, like, that misogyny that's in his head, like, oh, I can't listen to Nancy Pelosi's shrill voice. Yeah, okay. But let me give you some more examples of this. Again, really illustrative, how Republicans are like, I just don't understand. What was wrong with this? Same here, OP. I assumed it had a bunch of unrelated crap thrown in. So I read it and do not see anything objectionable. 100% no vote by ours is idiotic. I appreciate the answers given and the time spent provided detailed information, some of which I wasn't aware of. Kudos to the sub in general for adult respectful conversations/debates. Again, he didn't find anything that is objectionable because there was nothing objectionable in it. Still, let me give you another one. It's not even a government will pay bill. Who is voting against this? I really want to know. I will be watching my Republican congressman regarding this. My mother and I are conservative and fully support it. We believe birth control prevents abortions. It is a good thing. Birth control has literally prevented more abortions than any other entity, hands down. It also prevents a lot of STDs. Maybe that is the reason? So I bring this to you again because it's very, very interesting. I just can't seem to find an issue. In fact, I'm fully in support of contraception. Who is voting against this? Well, nearly all of them. 96% of Republicans in the House said no. No, we don't think that you should have the right to take contraception. And by the way, this is going to go to the Senate. Guess what? It's unlikely to pass through a Republican filibuster. Republicans in the Senate are likely to block this. Now, what's interesting here is I'm going to give rare credit to the Democrats for actually doing something politically smart. Very, very rare. They put nothing else in this bill. This is just a straight up, very clean bill that codified the right for married couples and anyone to be able to get contraception. That's it, to be able to buy it and use it. Now, if I were Democrats, I would then hammer Republicans over this. You had 195 people that said that you don't have the right to have birth control. We put a bill out there and they killed it. I mean, it passed the House, but they still voted against it. They tried to kill it. Is this what freedom is? Is this what freedom is to Republicans? Control over your body and what you take, forcing you to be in a situation where you can't take contraception. So you must either abstain from sex in a relationship. And again, this applies to married couples, or be forced to have more and more pregnancies. Contraception is such a basic right that Americans, they want it, they use it. We use it. In fact, in 2015 through 2017, approximately 65% of women aged 15 to 49 were using some type of contraceptive method. 35% were not. Now, the reasons, of course, they weren't was because they were seeking pregnancy, or were pregnant, or were postpartum, or were not sexually active. And of course, there's plenty of women that take contraception in order to solve, certain issues and are not sexually active. Now, other polls have found overwhelming support for legal access to common forms of birth control. 90% of Americans said condoms and birth control should be legal in all or most cases. 81% said the same of IUDs. This is all from 2021. A recent YouGov poll shows that among those respondents who support abortion rights, 91% believe that birth control should be made free and widely available if abortion is outlawed. Again, and it has been, not on a national scale, but in many states. And that's not to say that the Republicans would not also try to ban it on a national level if they retake Congress and become, and of course, win the presidency in 2024. So among those who are anti-abortion rights, by the way, 61% agree. Even a majority of those who are against abortion, which you think would be the highest, say that, no, we should have free birth control. So here you have a party that is deeply out of step with their own voters. Now, that is both sad and hilarious, because in this case, it's basically the people who voted for the leopards eating faces party are starting to regret what they voted for. Hey, I didn't think the leopard was going to eat my face. Yeah, well, that's what you voted for. And again, Republicans, let me be very clear. Republicans are not conservative. Republicans are regressive. The Republican Party is on a regressive platform. They're not trying to conserve the status quo. That's actually the Democrats. The Democrats are the conservative party here. The Republicans are the regressive party. They're actively trying to take rights away from people. The rights to an abortion. Oh, but we're just sending it back to the states. Yeah, sending it back to the states for what? To do what? To do what? Oh, right, to have the states ban it, which in half the country they have. Yeah, on voting rights. Abortion, they've taken away voting rights. They've taken away, again, abortion rights, Roe, privacy, civil rights, other things, lots of things. They've been very, very clear about what they want to do with their actions. Democrats, right now, and the left has been saying this for a while. Again, Democrats are the conservative party. They are conserving the literal status quo. Again, my evidence of that is the fact that, of course, since Democrats took over, what has really changed? Nothing really. And that's my promise. Again, Joe Biden told his Republican donors, don't worry, nothing will fundamentally change. I am conserving the status quo. We are conservatives. We don't actually have a progressive party in this country that is fighting for progress. There are a few members in Congress that are progressive, that are fighting for expanded access to things. Expand Medicare, to expand Medicare to cover everyone. That would be progressive. To do positive change. But no one seems to know that. And if you watch cable news. Now, you all know that because you don't watch cable news. You watch, leftist, progressive programming. But establishment Democrats and establishment Republicans, they have no idea. And it's because media has failed. Cable news has failed. In fact, you turn on CNN, you turn on cable news. What do you hear most as a criticism of the Biden administration? That Biden has gone too far left. I mean, and of course, they say that without actually identifying any policy that proves their point. None at all. Anything done by either party, understand, is done to the benefit of their corporate donors. Now, the way Republicans, of course, get away with being so nakedly pro-corporate is that they also use those social issues to rile up the evangelicals in their base. And by the way, evangelicals are the most powerful, I consider them special interest in this country. They turn out to vote. They always turn out to vote in very, very high numbers. Republican politicians obviously pander to them. And really all they care about is having more religion in government, having Christianity as our national religion, destroying the separation of church and state, putting government in schools. I'm sorry, not government, putting religion in government schools, banning abortions, controlling women, and hating gay and trans people. That's it. And I think the Democrats, and I'll get into another video, I think they really underestimated the ability of the crazies in the party. They really have. Because, look, for the Republican Party, the lunatics have taken over the asylum. While establishment Democratic leaders who used to play this game with the Republicans, you know, they'd oppose them on paper and, of course, oppose them on social issues. But they would join them to empower corporations, corporate donors, to give them tax cuts and deregulation. And then they both laughed at the bank. Now these Democrats are genuinely shocked that Republicans are no longer playing that game anymore. Because you have the crazies that have taken over the caucus. And now the crazies have won in many ways and are regressing the country. So much so that even their voters are blindsided by it. And unfortunately, the only ones that were truly warning everyone were progressives. And guess what? Nobody listened to us. As usual. It's the we told you so. Evangelicals want religion to be the government as long as the political donors approve. Evangelicals generally don't actually care about the donors. They're a different wing of the Republican Party. There's the business wing, very, very pro-corporate wing. Then there's the evangelicals. You should read up on dominionism because that's what a lot of these people do actually believe in. All right. Moving on. Let's go to the Democrats, by the way. A CNN panel is calling out Democrats for endangering our democracy by elevating insane right-wing candidates. This is the Pied Piper strategy, which famously failed in 2016. In recent primaries in multiple states, Mediaite reports Democrats have been paying for ads supporting extremist Republican candidates in the hopes that they would win their primaries and they would be easy to beat in general elections. That is the assumption. In Maryland, for example, the Democratic Governors Association financially backed ads promoting Dan Cox, a Trump-backed gubernatorial candidate. Cox, of course, is anti-choice, pro-oil and gas, thinks critical race theory is indoctrinating children, thinks trans people in sports is somehow a major issue, even though it's really not. A lot of the states, by the way, that have tried to ban or have actually banned transgender athletes have had 0 cases of transgender athletes that are competing in sports. And so it's just nakedly anti-trans and incredibly bigoted. Cox also thinks that the solution to crime is getting rid of immigrants. So, look, this is the guy who won the Republican primary, partly thanks to Democrats who, again, paid to help him in ads, which led to CNN's Manu Raju asking this question. Take a look.
I mean, Larry Hogan, the Maryland governor, the Republican, said the Democrats are playing with fire. I mean, are they?
I mean, well, first of all, I think we need to acknowledge that it's a clear strategy, right? Because not only did we see it in Maryland, but we've seen it play out across gubernatorial races in several other states. You know, Josh Shapiro running ads for Doug Mastriano in Pennsylvania comes to mind, for example. And look, they are trying to get the more extreme candidate to face the Democrat in the general election. They believe that it gives them a better chance. But of course, it raises the questions that Governor Hogan raised about them playing with fire and the dangers of this. If Democrats are going to say throughout these January 6th hearings that democracy is under attack, how can you then also go ahead and prop some of these candidates up?
It's a huge risk.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. Yes, it's a huge risk. It's an absolute huge risk. You know why? Because guess what? We've already had an example of it blowing up in Democrats' faces. And by the way, not just Democrats' faces, in everyone else's face. Remember, the 2016, the Clinton campaign elevated Donald Trump because they thought that Donald Trump would be easy to beat. And guess what? We all paid the price with 4 years of Donald Trump. And now scores of even more extremist Republicans that don't give a damn about a democracy, voted to end our democracy, are currently in power as a result. We have lost the Supreme Court. We have lost abortion rights in many states. Money in politics is even worse now, thanks to the extremist Supreme Court, which is also incredibly corporatist. The environment is a disaster, all because guess what? The Democrats were more scared of a populist progressive candidate winning a primary and possibly winning the election, because guess what? It would actually affect their donors. That said, let's go to the next video here. Raju then asked the panel whether or not it's going to be effective, and this is the conversation that ensued.
A lot of those frontline members also say privately, well, I would much rather run against a super MAGA Trump acolyte because it just makes it easier.
And we also know that that's going to be one of Democrats' central midterm messages. I've been talking to folks at the White House where, you know, President Biden is preparing to make his entry into kind of midterm campaign mode. One of their key arguments is that the Republican Party is extreme, and it is more extreme than whatever you may think about the Democrats' leftward pull. And so having these kind of candidates certainly helps to play into that argument.
That is my question for Democrats. It's like, okay, you've got this political message about our democracy and about what's important. Propping up these kinds of candidates like a Doug Mastriano in Pennsylvania or a Kari Lake potentially in Arizona, that is contrary to everything else that you are telling the American people about where you stand and what you believe and what's important. And if we end up if it ends up that some of these extreme candidates that they've propped up get elected and actually do make moves in 2024 that jeopardize, they're going to have to answer for that.
Yeah, it's not just contrary. It undercuts the whole argument.
It does.
The greatest threat to democracy is Donald Trump-like candidates, and the very fate of our republic rests on defeating them. And at the same time, they're bolstering them for partisan advantage in a tight race. The first argument, both arguments can't be true.
Right.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's just the little thing that I just keep hearing on these arguments.
Right. I mean, look, very
I mean,
clear.
they wished to run against Donald Trump.
Right, they do. And see what
in 2016, look,
and they lost. And they can win again. It's certainly possible.
All right. So before I get into my commentary here, I just want to thank Surfs for the raid of, what is it, 314. Thank you, everybody. Really, really appreciate it. Right now, we're talking about how Democrats are actually having a decent conversation on CNN, but not quite getting it. And we'll get into the details here. Okay, so look, going back to the video here, while what they're saying was absolutely true, I think they're missing some key context. The reason that Democrats are backing insane people on the right, Republican side, is because if they do, they're not going to actually have to do anything while in power to help you. I mean, look, either insane Republicans win, and Democrats that are still in power say, oh, well, you know, we'd like to do something. We would love to help by raising the minimum wage, but we can't. We just don't have the numbers. We don't have the votes. We just can't do anything. Now, if they still beat insane Republicans, get a majority, well, guess what? They'll still say, well, we can't actually do anything to raise the minimum wage because, you know, that could hurt our election chances in the next election. And then the media and establishment Democrats can blame Biden for going too far to the left when he hasn't done a damn thing for the left. Has he done Medicare for all? No. Has he canceled student loan debt? No. Has he expanded voting rights? No. Has he protected abortion rights using federal powers? No. The things that he would be able to do with the executive orders and presidential power, he has refused to do. And then talks about bipartisanship, right? Oh, we need the bipartisanship. But of course, bipartisanship when it comes to Democrats is them going in to join the Republicans. And besides, are you going to have bipartisanship with the Republicans right now when the vast majority of them literally voted against birth control for no reason at all, against contraception coverage? No, they're not going to come over. They're not going to come over at all. No, Republicans, look, and worse, by the way, is now you have Democratic groups that are funding Republican insane challengers who, again, in many cases have won their primaries and in some cases have defeated Democrats and now are in Congress. They're in power. And they did that, by the way, instead of helping progressive candidates, which desperately need it. And that is very striking. They would rather help extremist Republicans and risk them getting into power, taking over, than boost a progressive candidate. And it really shows you their priorities. They hate progressives more than they hate insane fascist Republicans. Think about that for a second. They would rather play Russian roulette with our democracy than have a progressive candidate win. Because, you know, again, it's because they'd actually have to do things like maybe they'd have to try and get a vote for health care. Maybe they would actually try to have to lower prescription drug prices or raise wages for working people or make colleges and universities tuition free. All the things that would have a negative impact on their corporate donors. That's the reality. And yes, CNN, they're so close in having this conversation. Because again, they're talking about, oh, you know, it's a really good idea to fund insane Republican candidates because they think that they might have an advantage. They're not going to have an advantage because guess what? The right wing is captured by insanity. The voters are captured by insanity. And then you have this media ecosphere. On the right, it's the griftosphere. And then you have, you know, cable news, which in a lot of cases had actually painted both sides as even though they're not, that have created this situation. Right-wing media is an echo chamber of dog shit. It's a disaster. Absolute disaster, media is. And look, the thing that they missed, the most important bit, even though I think that generally they touched on a lot of good points, they missed the money. The money is the most important thing. The answer is really right in front of them, right in front of their faces, and they miss it. The reason the media never talks about the money is because of where the money goes. That money goes right back to mainstream media. Campaign donations in the form of buying ads, advertisements, political ads. And it just brings me back to the very important quote here to explain all of this from Upton Sinclair, who said that it is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. And that right there is the biggest indictment against mainstream cable media. So, all right. Let's talk on Alex Jones real quick. Because why not? There's a viewer here. I hope Peril77 is here because this segment is for them. You've been jonesing for Alex Jones, so why don't we do that? Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones has some thoughts about Dracula.
It's here, the second Atlantis. And you know how Atlantis ended. And America was founded by Francis Bacon and others to be the new Atlantis. And so that's where we are. And the decision has been made, and you can see the arguments are there, especially the public doesn't say no to this. This is a test to go ahead and wipe out 90+% of the population. They've already begun injecting people with the time-delayed kill switches. They're already spraying us with nanotech. They're already putting it in all the food. The attack has begun. We are now being murdered. Count Dracula is the recognized head of the entire dynasty. And so this house of the dragon that flies the dragon banner, the Dracul, rule the planet. Just like Revelation tells us the dragon.
House of the Dragon actually sounds super cool. I'm not going to lie. I'm part of Dragon Squad. So I'm just saying. oh, look. I just love says, oh, we are now being murdered. And it just makes me think of the meme of that person saying, I was just murdered. Look, all of this is fan fiction. That's all it is. Alex Jones isn't actually crazy. He is a fan fiction enthusiast. The only thing, of course, is the fan fiction that he makes up is worse than anything that you would find on fanfiction.net or Wattpad. But the selling point here is the delivery, because that is top notch. Let me tell you what, Alex Jones is very entertaining. And again, that's because he is an entertainer. He's not a news person. No, he's basically admitted in court that he's a performance artist, and this is performance art. Unfortunately, it's also insane performance art that people believe. But his lawyers had argued that there is no reasonable person would believe anything that he says. Now, what sucks about this is that the United States and the world is unfortunately filled with unreasonable people, massively. And that's putting it mildly. These people are divorced from reality, and what Jones is doing is that he's doing his weirdo performance art, his fan fiction, and monetizing the hell out of it. Monetizing insanity, and it would be funny if it didn't have real world disastrous consequences. For example, Sandy Hook, the Sandy Hook conspiracy, right? The families were, stalked and harassed by Alex Jones's deranged fans. And the fact that, again, you just have millions of people who believe the stuff that he says and thinks there's a globalist world for your mind. That's what's going on here. Okay, what we're going to do, what the globalists are doing. We got the vampires and the goblins with the pot bellies. They're teaming up with the werewolves, okay? This is Edward and Jacob, all right? But it's actually Edward versus Jacob because you got the werewolves on the other side, okay? And what they're going to do is they're trying to drink the blood of infants. That's right. They're going to drink the blood, and they're going to get the life extension technology to go to the next planet, go to the next star system, and then they're going to come back with the Death Star, Lord Vader, and that's what they're going to, and they're going to enslave you all, and you're going to be mining spice and Kessel. Like, what the, dude, what? What is going on here? But no, it is incredibly depressing that so many people will listen to stuff that he says and think, nailed it. Unfortunately, that's our reality. We're in the bad timeline. The worst timeline. I'm only interested in him eating my ass like corn on the cob.
I will eat your ass.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Let me just allow that on Twitch there. Fun. All right. Let's get to more serious things for a second. Oh, hold on. Whoa. We got
There's insanity in the control room.
Okay. A pair of Republicans in North Carolina claim to be so pro-life that they will literally kill you to protect the fetus. That's right. Last year, Republican representatives in North Carolina had introduced House Bill 15. Now, why last year? Well, there's a claim that they were going to bring it back. They're still interested in it. That's for sure. So now this bill is, again, House Bill 158, which seeks to extend the rights of personhood to fetuses and says that any person who willfully seeks to destroy the life of another person by any means. Oh, any means. Can this mean like, I don't know, corporations or even the government like denying people aid when they're hungry? No, of course, no. It doesn't apply to that. No, it doesn't extend there. Or healthcare companies, for example, being literal death panels? No, of course not. Just for women who want bodily autonomy, and of course not just women, but trans men, non-binary, anyone with a functioning uterus. They do not want you to have control over your own body. So now, this bill also says that you can stop them by any means at any stage of life, or succeeds in doing so shall be held accountable for attempted murder or for first-degree murder, respectively, if you try to allow someone to get an abortion. Now, the bill goes on to say that any person has a right to defend his or her own life or the life of another person, even by the use of deadly force, if necessary, from willful destruction by another person. So, basically, what that means is that any citizen could have the potential right to kill a doctor performing an abortion or to kill a woman taking an abortion pill to save the life of the fetus, killing the mom to save the fetus. That's this bill. Now, this was introduced by Representative Larry Pittman, who is retiring, and Representative Mark Brody. Now, Pittman, I don't know much about Brody, but Pittman is known for comparing Abraham Lincoln to Hitler, and I don't think he meant that in a bad way. Wow. In a letter filed with the bill, Pittman claims that it is hoped that if abortion is made illegal, as it should have been, more people would be responsible in their sexual habits before producing a new human life unintentionally. Well, then, why don't we just, fully fund birth control so that people can take birth control whenever they need it? And also, by the way, have comprehensive sex ed to teach people about how it actually works. Oh, no, of course not. Not at all interested in that, say Republicans. He wrote that that abortion being an act of murder should be treated the same as any other instance of murder under existing law. Okay, now, basically, it says that we're going to kill you for aborting a fetus because we are so incredibly pro-life. Yes, this is the extreme lengths that some of these people want to go. Now, thankfully, this bill wouldn't pass, at least at this point, in its current form. It's been stuck in committee, and the majority of North Carolina Republicans are not in support of this. That said, we have seen Republicans continue to get crazier and crazier and crazier over time, to get more and more extreme. So I don't know what's going to happen in the next few years. Maybe it will come back. It's there, and it's insane that this was even introduced in the first place. This is a lawmaker. This is not some rando at 4chan. People actually voted for this guy. And that is just the most horrifying thing. Okay. Let's move on. Let's get to the last story here. We've got Rick Scott. Republican Senator Rick Scott got a little confused at who the authoritarians actually are.
They want to control our lives. Woke government-run schools, woke government-run healthcare, woke government-run media, woke government-run everything. In their new socialist America, everyone will obey and no one will be allowed to complain. If you do speak up, boom, you're going to be canceled. Your views, if they don't conform to big tech, or Fauci, or Neil Young, you're going to be taken off of Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. The modern left in America are the modern-day version of book burners.
Okay, well, let me just start out by saying that everything that he just said is projection. Huh. Now, look, it's Republicans that want to control women by outlawing abortions. After the court struck down Roe, for example, half the country banned abortion. And so, look, or they've moved to institute their own bans. The majority of Republicans also voted against contraception, not to make it free or anything, just to keep it legal for people to use contraception. They voted against the right of gay people to marry. Florida banned saying gay in schools and forced teachers to out their LGBTQ students or get fired. They also banned critical race theory, which wasn't ever taught in K through 12 education, not just in Florida, but many other states that have targeted teachers and professors in order to get them fired. So you want to talk about cancel culture? That's cancel culture. They've also banned books about racism, sexism, LGBT themes, while calling teachers groomers. And talking about book burning. Oh, you want to talk about book burning? Okay. Well, Tennessee literally had a book burning headed by a right-wing pastor named Greg Locke. Burning things like Harry Potter. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to burning Harry Potter because of J.K. Rowling. That said, still generally a bad thing to be the book burners. I just wouldn't cry if the book was burned. Just saying. They're chasing out librarians. For example, former Fort Worth, Texas librarian Sarah Chase told NBC News that she'd retired permanently due to the uptick in book banning fever. I'm no saint, she said. I got out because I was afraid to stand up to the attacks. I didn't want to get caught in somebody's snare who wants to be called a pornographer, who wants to be accused of being a pedophile or reported to the police for putting a book in a kid's hand. Yeah, putting books in kids' hands, that's dangerous. But, put a gun in their hands is totally fine by Republicans. As long as, of course, you pointed at a black person or maybe cops, as long as they're like defending the Capitol building or if you're like the Bundys, federal agents. But, hey, Republicans, they're authoritarians. They don't believe in limited government at all. When Rick Scott talks about small government, he means small government for corporations. He wants it so that private companies can do fraud and not be stopped because you won't have a government agency that is able to stop it. For example, like what he did to Medicare when he was CEO of Columbia HCA. They were fined $1.7 billion for Medicare fraud. But yet he says, and all the Republican Party says, the waste, fraud, and abuse, that's on you. You did that. No, bitch, you did that. That's who Rick Scott is. Okay, he's an authoritarian and just wants freedom for corporations, not for you. That's what they want. They want to control your life. They want to control what you read. They want to control what you see. That's why they have all these Sinclair stations that they have bought up in local news. They want to control what you do, who you get married to, what you can do with your own body, while allowing corporations to basically do whatever the hell they want to you. Steal your wages, fire you without any reason whatsoever, crush your unions, your attempts to unionize with your workers or your fellow workers. That's who they are. And you know what we call that? Fascism. All right. Damn, we are, I blew through those stories today. Devin, Michigan says burning books are a Hitler thing, so here it starts. Yep. Jay Hawker, the Ball Dragon. Let me get these off the screen here. Yeah, I'm going to read some comments because there's a lot of good ones here. He's a crook that should be in jail. Agreed. Small government, though, right? True. Ravaging Wolverine says, of course, big versus small government is a meaningless thing, just a distraction. Yeah, again, they don't actually believe in small government. It's small enough to, fit in your uterus, basically. But they want it big enough to control your life. And it's weird they have this whole satanic panic thing, too, that they're basically running on. What's a dictator? A fluffer potato? Good stuff on that one. Let's see. Let me go to some super chats, because I know there are a couple of those. And then we'll get to some more Twitch comments. Again, thank you for the raid, Surfs. I really appreciate that. You guys are based and awesome. What do I also say? Do I say POG? Wasn't it Tennessee that started burning books? Yeah, that was Pastor Greg Locke. And then there was also a Republican congressman, I forget his name, who was a local congressman in that area, who was like, oh, I wouldn't mind taking these books out and burning them after we remove them from the schools. Oh, lovely. Lovely. At least you're being honest about your fascism. But then again, they have always been honest about agreeing with authoritarianism. There's this video. I wish I had it on deck right now. But there's this video of a woman saying, you know, what is it? If there's going to be a dictator, I want it to be Trump. Huh. So they're just absolutely open and honest about it. And again, it's scary as hell, because here we are, you know, going through this. And the Democrats just, they can't fight back. They're so bad at fighting back. All right. Tyler Hackner says, in Texas, freedom to have guns. True. Referring to Joe Rogan. Tyler Hackner also says, so tired of fake populist BS. And also says, Joe has a light bulb moment. It's rare. It's broken clock. Was it Waco where the police lit the house on fire? I do remember watching the Waco siege, but I don't remember if it was the house, the police that lit the house on fire. Mighty Darno says, if you're close to someone who's troubled, please reach out and talk to them. They could use it. That's generally pretty good advice. So I'll agree with that. Let's see. Toolman 1051, thank you for resubbing for with Prime for 1 year, 1 full year. Ravaging Wolverine says, I'm in the mood for a sub. Oh, for 21 months. Appreciate that. Deb in Michigan, thank you for resubbing for a month at tier 1 for 2 months. And she asks, where are the doctors? This is out of control. Absolutely it is. All right. So thank you again for all the follows, all the subs. Appreciate that. If you like what I do here, then please give us a follow. Thank you, by the way. Subway sounds good. Indeed. It sucks because their subs are in Europe. The bread is considered to be like a pastry or something. Just because of the sugar content in it. So we've got some pretty terrible food here in the United States because of all the additives and bullshit that they put into it. You making me show my age? Hey, look, I'm pretty old myself, so nothing wrong with that. The quality of wheat too. Oh yeah. Why don't we raid into somebody else, by the way? Oh, they recoil at the mere mention of socialism and communism, like capitalism is doing wonders for and the planet. Yeah, it's the thing about that too is like I'm gonna read into left flank vets, by the way. Look, these idiots, they don't care about anything except for profit, and that's it. All they care about is stuffing their pockets with as much money as possible because they are not going to be alive for what's going to happen after the climate apocalypse. It's incredibly selfish, and they're leaving us to clean up their mess. And that money is not going to do us a whole lot of good when the planet's on fire and when its planet's unlivable. So it's just, I mean, we got to do something, and we've got to bypass Congress somehow to be able to get some action on climate change. what that is, I mean, I guess we start local and we start trying to do sustainable local programs. That's all that I can think of at the moment. Why would the earth matter? Right? To profit. Profits. That's my mom. Who cares? I'm not going to be around anyway. Yeah, thanks, Mom. Yeah, like real nice. It's real nice. Well done, Mom. That was Representative Jerry Sexton who said I would burn the books. Thank you, Grumpy Cat. All right. Everybody else, again, thank you for going around the nation with me today. Like and share the stream, and we will see you back here tomorrow. Love you all, and remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you tomorrow.
I will eat your ass.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Please clap. Mike Pence.
Beta! Beta male! Obama! Disappointed! You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.